Hey, Tribe Builder. I am Muffy Mendoza, and welcome back to the Brown Mama's Tribe Builder course made for any leader building community with care and intention. I got to write this out. Before we get into today's lesson, you already know I want you to join me for our 30-second commitment. So take your deep breath in and breathe out and repeat after me. We build community. We are moms, grandmas, dads, uncles, and aunties, neighbors. We are childcare workers, nurses, bus drivers, and business owners. We are the village. We fill in the gap. We listen to stories, honor the presence, and validate the vision of everyday people. When one season ends and the next begins, when the needs shift, the questions change, and life gets real, we are there. We are space. We hold space. Space to learn, space to connect, space to lead, space to grow. Ashe. All right. So remember, in this work, we don't just build groups. We build belonging. And belonging requires something many of us never truly got growing up: repair. So we have to learn in our community building and our tribe building to normalize conflict, because conflict is not a sign your community is failing. Conflict is a sign your community is real. A beautiful hawk just flew above me, but it's a sign your community is real. And so here's my favorite reframe: community without conflict is usually community with silence. And silence is not peace. Silence is often fear, people pleasing, or folks deciding I'm going to back away instead of bring it up. And our goal is not to eliminate conflict. Our goal is to build a culture where conflict gets handled early, cleanly, and with as much dignity as possible. So I'm going to have to bring this up because I know that many tribe builders are women. And conflict in women led spaces can hit different because it touches sister wounds, old stories that women often tell themselves, like, I'm not chosen, I'm not safe with other women, I have to compete to belong. If I speak up, I'll be punished. So when a misunderstanding happens, people aren't just reacting to this moment. And that's the hard thing to understand. They're reacting to years of being dismissed, compared, excluded, or expected to stay nice. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the triggers I oftentimes see in women's communities. And I've experienced them, of course, in Brown Mamas. So the first one is unmet expectations. Somebody thought the group was one thing, but it's operating as another, or people assume unspoken rules. And this can also happen when people have expectations of your host, your holder, and your helper that they're not meeting. Another trigger is tone policing and style clashes. That's when one person is direct, another person is sensitive, and another communicates with humor, and suddenly people feel judged because of other people's styles of communication. Then we have jealousy, comparison, visibility dynamics at play. Somebody gets spotlighted, invited, praised, or posted, and it awakens comparison in another person. Then we have the trigger of exclusion and inner circle dynamics, inside jokes, side texts, meetups people didn't know about. This is where belonging wounds start to flare. And then we have burnout and overfunctioning. Leaders and members get tired. Everybody gets tired. And when people are dysregulated, everything starts to feel personal. What I want you to know as a tribe builder is that if you are leading, your job is not to prevent every trigger. You can't prevent every trigger. Your job is to create a repair pathway so triggers don't become trauma. And also to kind of expect that these things are going to happen. So here are 4 rules that can help you to repair. And this is really just a backbone that you can use, and you can kind of put your own, you'll know which style your community needs, and you can kind of put your own flavor on it. But the number one backbone that you need in order to repair is you need clarity. So again, we talk about this all the time. We talked about what happens with gossip, with vague posts, and without recruiting an audience. You have to be clear about what it means to operate cleanly, transparency in your community. And you have to be unabashed about being clear in those expectations for everybody, not just for the members, but also for you and your team of tribe builders. Then consent. Repair is an invitation. It is not an ambush. We don't corner people. We ask, do you have the capacity to talk? Capacity is so important when it comes to consent. Sometimes we're like, well, we have an issue with you and now is the time to handle it. That person may not have the capacity in that moment. And you, as the leader and your leadership team, should be able to know your members well enough to know who has what capacity. And then there's curiosity. Do not do not meet people with judgment. Meet people with understanding. Meet people with making room for their impact and their intention. Like, get curious about the situation. Get curious about what people need and how people move. And then lastly is closure. We don't leave things hanging forever. And this can be so hard. This can be probably one of the harder parts of being a tribe builder is realizing that you actually are in charge of putting a bow on it, even when it may not feel good. So we decide what the changes are moving forward so that the space doesn't stay tense. So whether that's putting a bow on something, inviting somebody back into the space, encouraging a conversation, like that's on the tribe builder leadership team to figure that out. But closure it's a must. So, and let me add this, repair is not about forcing closeness. Like, you're not trying to force people to be close. People are going to be consistent. Once your tribe grows, and even with just those group of 5 people at the beginning, there's going to be triggers. But repair is about restoring dignity and safety, letting people know that this is a safe space. It's a safe space, not just for the leaders, but it's also a safe space for the members. So here's a 3-part repair script that you can use. And I want you to practice this. This is not something you want to just go in with. You want to practice it. You want to practice it with your leadership team, practice it with yourself. So when you are in a situation and there's a conflict, whether it's with you and another member or other members, you want to ask, what was experienced? So you want each party to share what they experienced. When this happened, I felt. And we've all done this in therapy, right? We're all in therapy. The second thing you need to do is actually get them to identify what they need. So what I needed in that moment was this. What I need, well, we're going to go to that part next. So what I needed in that part was this. In that moment was this. So getting them to identify what would have made a change in the situation had it not gone that way. And the third thing you need to ask is what I'm requesting moving forward. So moving forward, I'm requesting that you respond to me like this. And so this is going to give you a really good framework for, number one, getting a clear visual of the harm that was done, and then getting a clear visual of how it can actually be repaired, and helping you to also see if you keep having conflicts and there is these repeating themes, then you know that's an issue in your community and it's actually something you need to address. So again, this can happen between a leader and a member, or a leader and a leader, or a member and a member, and just remembering that each situation is going to be a little bit nuanced. And when it comes to especially women's communities, these types of things require softness, they require boundaries, they require deep understandings about your commitment to community. So this is not about who's right. It's about making the invisible visible. Because remember, where there's no conflict, that's typically silence. And silence is not good. Silence means this ain't real. Conflict means we are actually learning how to fight fair. We are actually learning how to be in community with each other. And so you stop guessing and you actually start repairing. Now, let's be clear. Not every situation is a repair situation. We talked about that in the accountability and confidentiality video. Not every situation can be fixed. You can use repair when there's a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, when a one-time impact one-time impact with willingness to learn. So if something was just like a spur of the moment thing, and then both parties are willing to learn, both people can communicate without intimidation. If you have a party that is just going to keep yelling, and every time you try to get them together, stop putting the other person through that. Like, this may be a time where you just pause and you separate and you put a boundary in place. And you can move to a boundary when patterns repeat after feedback. So this is the same person or the same organization or the same thing just keeps happening over and over again, even after you've already provided feedback. Somebody refuses accountability, meaning they won't even take responsibility for their part. That's when you need to put a boundary in place. When someone creates fear, manipulation, or unsafe dynamics, to me, that's when you remove them. If there are any unsafe dynamics, if there's any manipulation or somebody is actually afraid, has a legitimate fear, then you remove them. Also, if there are harassment, threats, doxing, or stalking, consistent bullying, if the person is harming other people and they won't stop, then that's when we've moved out of repair, we've moved out of boundary. Now it's just time for you to remove yourself. And based on what's happened in my community, my job is always to respect the space. And wherever there is opportunity for the space to be honored, there is also an opportunity for community to remain whole. Whenever we get into a space where the community member, the leader, is no longer honoring the community, that's when respecting the space is not cruelty. Cruelty is just leadership, right? So here's your assignment for this week. It's simple and it's very foundational. And I want you to create some group agreements for your next gathering, for your online space. Start with 5 to 7 agreements, and that's confidentiality basics. No gossip, no pile-ons, repair pathway, like what is the repair pathway? Consent-based communication, like ask, we're communicating here. Do you consent to communicate? Before heavy shares, and letting them know, like, this may be a community where there's a lot of heavy sharing. Respect for different communication styles, like remembering that not everybody communicates the way you communicate. And what happens if harm repeats? Like, what is the reconciliation process? And also, what is the process of removal? That was a lot. But you are going to be able to find support to get through this in your Tribe Builder Roadmap. There is a conflict and repair one pager, and it includes the repair script and some escalation steps that you can actually take, especially if you've decided you want to start an online group. And we're going to go through that in our next video, how to start an online group. Because the reality is, you are not building perfection. You're building a space that people know how to come back to and how to center themselves in. And so in our next video, we are going to talk about online groups. They are difficult, but we're going to get through it. So I will see you in the next session. Peace.